My name is James DeWan, and I'm part of a select group of electricians that you may never have heard of. We don't rely on large contractors, developers, builders, and we don't need agencies or lead generation sites to provide our work. In fact, our belief is unlike most other trades. You see, we believe that you should get paid what you're worth. We dictate our terms and we never compete on price while providing a top-rate service. You see, we know how to make the best of low and no-cost marketing to fill our diaries. For far too long now, marketing has been considered a dirty word in our industry, with phrases like, if you're good enough, you don't need to advertise, or word of mouth is all you need. We know that positioning leads to profitability. We do things differently. We do things smarter. What we know changes how you do business. If you ask other electricians, they'll tell you it can't be done. You can't increase your prices. You can't work to your own terms. You need developers. You need agencies. Marketing is an expense and advertising doesn't work. They see what we do as impossible. And yet, here we are doing it. How's that possible? We generate all our own work. We charge our own prices, and it happens using the S.P.A.R.K.S 6-step system, a system reserved for people like us. This isn't a job, this is a lifestyle choice. We're toolboxers, and this is our story. Morning all, and after some technical hitches, welcome to Saturday morning Toolbox Talk. Yeah, a few technical hitches this morning. I'm not sure what happened. Facebook decided it was changing some form of a setup on the page, which meant that I couldn't go live with the broadcast until I had reauthorized the broadcast software. Nothing like making it easy for you. Anyway, good morning. I thought this Saturday morning, that we would do a blatant promotion, if you like, for the Toolbox. And the reason for that is, over the last few weeks, I've had a number of people, non-Toolbox members, contacted me and asked me if the Toolbox is the right thing for them in various different forms. It wasn't exactly like that, but, you know, people saying, you know, I'm struggling for work at the moment. Is this the right thing to do? Or I'm doing industrial work. Is this the right thing to do? So on and so forth. So I thought that this week I would just come out and do a brief overview of what the Toolbox is all about, what it stands for, what you can gain from it, how it might work for you. Let's start by telling you a little bit about who I am. My name is James DeWan. I have been in the electrical industry, man and boy, for over 28 years now, 28 or more years now. I started life as an electrician in Ireland as an apprentice electrician, apprentice served. Moved to the UK very early after I qualified, worked for a various number of different organizations, everything from domestic, industrial, commercial, alarms, CCTVs, you name it. I was doing it at one way, shape or form. I started my first business, which is one that failed as a result of, I guess, doing things the way that most people still today actually do in terms of running their business. And that is from having all of my eggs in too few baskets. I was heavily dependent on subcontracting. I was heavily dependent in that business. Don't get me wrong, I grew that business to a really decent sized business. It was you know, on paper, classically, it was all good. I had 9 members of staff. I had a nice office set up in South London, and you know, sunshine and roses. It looked great on paper. The truth of it was, underneath, I was paddling like a freaking duck, trying to keep things going. And then when 2 of the builders stroke developers that I was working for at the time, when they went bust, it dragged me down with them, because they owed me a substantial amount of money. I had a substantial amount of labor put into various projects for them. The money never came, and as a result, my cash flow never recovered, and I ended up having to liquidate that company. I learned a lot through that process. Number one, never have all your eggs in one basket. Number two, subcontracting is not necessarily a way to base a business. It's just another form of having a job. And that in order to have a business, you need to be generating your own work. So I learned quite a lot on the way. I had to restart. I had no other choice but to sort of rebuild my business. I started out, had nothing left because we liquidated the company. So I literally started from the back of my wife's car. I didn't even have my own car because it went with the company. I started out from the back of my wife's car and I rebuilt gradually, and got to a relatively successful level with just 3 members of staff. And I was happy with that because, believe it or not, with 3 members of staff, I was more profitable and had less headaches than I had when I had 9 members of staff and 3 vehicles on the road and the offices and so on and so forth. So I rebuilt the business, and I rebuilt it based on building a local business, one where I didn't have to depend on subcontracting. I didn't have to depend on developers. I didn't have to depend on builders for work. I was generating all of my own work locally. Much of that was small works, but much of it also turned into reasonably larger projects as well, but not as a subcontractor, as the owner of the business, as a contractor. So having rebuilt that business, it became reasonably profitable. I then started to share some of the strategies and ideas that I was using to rebuild that business, and that seemed to help a number of people, not just electricians, but there was a plumber, a heating engineer, a locksmith, a number of different people that, sharing some of the techniques and strategies that I was using, they started to grow their businesses as well. Upshot was that over the years, I've sort of transitioned now into coaching, mentoring, and training electricians on how to create a successful business from their trade, from their skill, from what they do. And unfortunately, even today, they don't teach this in any of the trade skills courses, trade colleges. There is nowhere along your apprenticeship route that you will learn how to make a business out of what you do. Which is unfortunate because most tradesmen will want to create a business of their own once they become qualified. And they believe that if they're the best possible tradesman, then they will get all of the work. And that is definitely proven time and time again not to be the case. And you can see that when you see so many crappy tradesmen getting a good amount of work, and they get more work than some decent tradesmen simply because they're better able to put themselves out there. And I know it's wrong, but the bottom line is, if they market themselves better and they get the work, then you lose out. Whereas you put your time and your effort into being a much better tradesman, which is correct and everything that you should be doing, but you should be also focusing on marketing within your business as well. So over the last few years, the last 9 years, I have now been coaching, mentoring, and teaching electricians how to grow a business. I focus specifically on electricians because that is my background, although the strategies and techniques will work for most trades right across the board. If your object is to build a local business, if you're aiming to build a local business working directly for the end user, then the strategies that we teach and the strategies that we coach and mentor on in the toolbox will work for you. I'm just going to turn off this scrolling banner across the bottom. There we go. Done. So yeah, today I spend my time managing a membership program of electricians. At the moment, we have a little over, I think it's 340 odd members now in the program across the UK, working on growing and developing their business. And each of them are developed at various different stages. You'll hear from one or two of them in a little while. I also authored a book based on my strategy, which was the S.P.A.R.K.S Blueprint to Marketing for Local Trades. That book went to Amazon #1 and remained there for remained in the top 100 for a period of 2 years, which means that it sold very well. Now, the thing about this book is that I've given away more copies of it than I have sold, and it still remained at the top 100 over for over 2 years, and it's still available on Amazon for those of you who are interested in taking a look and downloading that. During the last 9 years, I've had the pleasure of presenting my system at a number of different events and venues across not just the UK, but now around the world as well. I've done some work with the NIC EIC. I've delivered at Power to Achieve. I've been on stage at Expert Empires alongside of Gary Vaynerchuk, Ryan Dice, and a number of other notaries as well. Talking about marketing and specifically looking at local marketing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a very quick overview of what the S.P.A.R.K.S Blueprint is all about. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the toolbox, the environment in where you learn about the S.P.A.R.K.S Blueprint. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at what is the Electrician's Toolbox. We'll take a little bit more information on that in a little while. But right now, what I want to do is walk you through the 6-step system that I created in order to help you to have a successful business. I'm just going to minimize myself down here in the corner so that you can get a better view of the screen. So what I discovered over the years of rebuilding and putting back together my business was that there are 6 areas, six specific areas that if you pay attention to them, you will have a successful business. The problem is that most electricians, most tradesmen in general, don't pay attention to these 6 specific areas. But if you do, and if you get this right, then what will happen is that your business, not overnight, it's not a magic fix, it's not a route to being a millionaire overnight or anything like that. It is something that you need to consistently pick away at and you need to consistently work at. But if you do, then you will have a successful business. Not a magic bullet. So, all these people who try and sell you a magic bullet of, I'll get you to the top of Google and I'll get you X number of leads and so on and so forth. That's great in a temporary way, but it only ever is temporary and only ever lasts as long as you're actually spending the money on it. When you actually instigate or when you put together or put in action a system like the one I'm about to show you, what you have is longevity in your business. What you have is something that will help you to grow and sustain your business year after year after year, bringing you in a profitable income rather than just a survivable income, rather than just living hand to mouth. It will actually help you to be profitable. So what is it that I identified or noticed was that in the main, most tradesmen, let's stick with electricians for the moment, most electricians don't actually specialize. When it comes to their marketing, when it comes to their promotions, they don't actually specialize. What they do is they believe that because they are trained electricians and they are trained to do industrial, commercial, domestic, you name it, appliance repair, they believe that they should promote all of that. Because if they don't, they're afraid that they will miss out. And nothing could be further from the truth. So that's one of the first areas or first things that we need to address. We'll come back to that in a second. The other thing that most electricians don't take the time to do is they don't take time to position themselves in their local community. Now, again, we're going to come back to these things and look at them in a moment. But how many times have you been working away somewhere? You've gotten up in the morning to get into your vehicle and you've driven out the door, you've driven out the street. And as you're driving out the street, you see another van, or maybe more than one, driving into your local area, doing exactly what you purport to do. So, in other words, another electrician driving into the area as you're driving out of it. And I'm guessing, just tell me yes. Just type in yes in the comment section if that has ever happened to you. Just type in yes. I know certainly back in the day it used to happen to me. I would get up, get myself organized, pack up my bits and pieces, get in the van, tuck away my sandwiches, and start driving, heading off to bloody London in most cases, right? And as I'm heading off to London, we've got all these other vans, tradesmen driving into my area. Why is that? Why are other electricians coming in and mopping up work in your area? And the reason, the very simple reason for that, is that we don't take time to position ourselves for what we do within our own local community. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So there's the first two areas that people tend not to pay attention to that they should be paying attention to. The next thing that we do is we don't create enough awareness. Now, let's talk about the difference between not creating enough awareness or creating the wrong kind of awareness. First and foremost, this tends to be the very first thing that most people will do when they start out in business. So they set up, they buy themselves a van, and then all of a sudden they're advertising, because that's what creating awareness is about. Just having a sip of my coffee. So they start advertising, but the problem is they're advertising before they have decided what they want to specialize in, and they've advertised before they have positioned themselves, and they've advertised before they actually have worked out what kind of a budget or what kind of pricing structure they're going to have. And as a result, they throw money at stuff that doesn't get them any freaking results. Okay. So creating awareness is not just about advertising. It's about advertising in the right way. It's about advertising at the right time. And it's about advertising to the right kind of people about what it is that you actually do. And we'll come back to talking about that in a moment as well. I'm going to go around the 6, and then we're going to come back to what we do about them. The next area is relationships. This is a very easy one to explain because we're all very guilty of it. And that is having what we call in the industry a transactional relationship with our customers. And again, you know, if this is you, just type in no relation if this is you, because my view is this is what many of us do. We advertise, we get a job, we go out and do the quote for the customer. We agree on a date to do the work if they're happy with the quote. We then go and do the work. And then once the work is completed, we get the check or the bank transfer or whatever method of payment we get. And that's the end of the relationship. Now, that's what we call a transactional relationship. And many of us in the trades do that. It is simply the end. Now, the bottom line is that each customer has what we call a customer lifetime value. And we in the trades never tend to maximize our customer lifetime value. We do what, you know, many people say, oh, word of mouth is the best form of marketing. And what we get from the customer as we leave the property is, oh, that was a great job. I'll recommend you when I get a chance. But what do we do to manage that process? What do we do to maintain the relationship with that customer? What do we do to encourage that customer to promote us? We don't do anything. So what fucking happens is we give the customer a business card. They're happy with the job that we've done. And over the next 3 to 6 months, they don't have any opportunity to refer us. Number one, because they're not looking out for opportunities because they haven't been shown how. But number two, it hasn't cropped up. So the business card gets dumped into the bottom of a drawer somewhere. And then 12 months later, somebody comes along and says, oh, do you remember that project you had done and that electrician that you had? And he goes, yeah. Oh, I think I've got his business card somewhere. He can't find the business card. And then he goes, well, I think his name was, it was James something or other. I can't remember what it was. I have a look for him online and see. And then, of course, they go and look online. And when they do that, they find somebody else and they've gone off down a rabbit hole and you've lost them. So we're not managing the relationship with our customers in order to maximize the return on the investment we've already put into getting them, in order to get them to come back to us, in order to get them to bring people back to us, in order to get testimonials, referrals, and so on and so forth, and eventually turning them into evangelists. So that's relationships. Then, of course, there is communication. Keeping in touch, and communication is one of the things that most customers complain about with any tradesperson. And again, we're sticking with electricians. Morning, Billy. Nice to have you out there. We've also got Electrical Installation Contractors Limited watching as well. Not sure what the individual's name is there, but Electrical Installation Contractors Limited, good morning to you. Nice to have you on board. We had some technical hitches getting started this morning, but we're up and running now. Rolf Martin, nice to see you out there. Julian Varley, great to have you with us as well. Guys, jump in, say hello, let us know that you were there, and if you have any questions, please do ask your questions. So the point I was making here was that most customers at some point or another have some form of complaint about communication with their tradesman or with their tradesperson, and electricians are no different. How many times have you turned up to a job or to do a quote and the customer has said, oh, I've had 3 people round and you're the only one who's come back to me, right? Or how many times have you been on a project where you've or maybe not you know somebody who's been on a project where the job has either overrun or there's been some extras on the job, and then it gets to the end of the job and you hand over the invoice and the customer goes, "What the hell is this? This isn't what we agreed on," because there's extras on the invoice. Mainly because poor communication, breakdown in communication, lack of communication. After you complete a project for a person, after you complete a project for a customer, how much communication goes into making sure that they're happy with the work that you've done, how much communication goes into getting testimonials and referrals and so on and so forth as well. So we cover off all of that as well under the communication stroke keep in touch part of this. But again, another area that people fail to look at. And then the next area is systemizing your business. Very few electricians, very few tradespeople look at any form of systemizing for their business. Some are still operating out of notebooks or quick Excel spreadsheets. They get up in the morning and they go to bed in the evening in the same bunch of confusion that they do every single day. You know, who called, when did they call, what materials do I need, what time am I going to that job on, and so on and so forth. So the process is not systemized. Now, when the process of doing the work is not systemized, then the marketing is not systemized either, is it? So what happens is you end up with what we call this feast and famine of work. Why? Because we get a glut of work in. We then focus on getting the work done because we're not organized, we're not systemized, we haven't got things, we're not managing the process properly. So we end up focusing on the work now instead of promoting and getting the work in. So we get that work done, we get paid for that work, we look at a diary for the next week and there's nothing in the fucking diary. There's no work in the diary. And that's the feast and famine cycle that we go through. Why? Because we haven't systemized our marketing process in order to get us business in. The other thing that happens is you get so busy doing stuff that you think, oh shit, I'm going to stop the advertising now because I'm getting too busy. So instead of learning how to say no, we stop the advertising. Instead of learning how to increase our pricing or how to manage the process better, we stop our advertising. And then what happens? We've got to get the machine started all over again when the diary is empty, and we've got to get up and running all over again. Or even worse, the other side of it is what we see, particularly at the moment, is when people go through a slack period and they think, oh, the economy's taking a tank, people aren't spending money on stuff, blah, blah. So I'm going to stop all my advertising. And of course, what happens? You stop your advertising, people don't know you exist, and therefore you don't get the inquiries. You don't get the inquiries, you don't have work to do, and all of a sudden you've now got a self-fulfilling prophecy that the world is shit and there's no work out there, right? The truth of it is that when things are like this now, you should be ramping up your marketing. I'm saying marketing, remember, not necessarily advertising. Advertising is a cost. Marketing does not necessarily have to be a cost. But in times like this, you need to be ramping up your marketing, because when everybody else is squirreling away, when all these other electricians, you know, when I was on the tools, I had a pool of like 13 electricians in my local area that I would, inverted commas, compete against. I never really saw them as competition, but compete against, right? So what's happening with those now, do you think? They're the ones that are going to squirrel things down and go, oh, I've got to tighten things up. We've got to make sure I watch the pennies and so on and so forth. If you're out there pushing yourself and putting yourself forward while they're being in a scarce mindset, scarcity mindset, then you're the one that's going to come out of it even stronger. But that's my perspective. Adam Pierce, good morning to you. Nice to have you with us, sir. Nathan Rodwell, great to see you out there. Sir Richard Thornton has joined us as well. Nice to have so many of you out there this morning, guys. Apologies for the earlier technical glitch when we were getting started this morning. So I'm just going through the 6-step system that is the S.P.A.R.K.S Blueprint, and I want to introduce you to the toolbox, My Electricians ToolBox, which is where my students learn about these 6 steps and how to actually implement them in their business. So the 6 things, like I said, that I've realized that people don't pay attention to, but if you do, mean that you'll have a successful business, is they don't specialize, they don't position themselves, they don't create the right kind of awareness, they don't build relationships with customers, they fail to communicate properly or keep in touch with customers, and they fail to systemize their business to a point that they don't have to worry about where the work is going to come from or how the work is actually going to get done. Anthony Fitch, nice to have you with us, sir. So what do we do within the toolbox? We have modules to cover off all 6 of these. Now I'm going through the top level modules here. Underneath these modules, there are modules again for each component that we look at here. So in order to specialize, we look at the niche generator, the specialist niche generator. Now, in very simple terms, very, very simple terms, this is all about the who, what, and where, and how much. Okay, so we look at your ideal customer, and trust me, everybody has an ideal customer, and when you drill down into who your ideal customer is, you will have a much more successful business. Problem is, we go out and we try to satisfy everybody. We go out and we try to work with everybody, and when we do that, what we end up with are a huge amount of projects that don't work out for us because of poor personality matches in some cases. How many times have you ever worked for a customer that turned out to be an absolute freaking nightmare? If that's happened to you, just type in nightmare now, please. Make this interactive, guys. Work with me. But if you've had a situation where you've started out on a project and you've thought, shit, I wish I never started this. This guy's a nightmare. And it may be a nightmare because he keeps asking for money off, or he keeps asking for additions to be stuck on, or he keeps questioning what you're doing, or he has a friend down the pub who could have done it better. But how many times have you started on a project and you wish to yourself, I wish I'd never done that? So the point I'm making here is that we have if and when we identify who our ideal customer is, what we can do then is we can end up working in a much, number one, happier environment, number two, much more profitable environment, and we're not banging our head against a brick wall all the time. The problem that we have is most tradesmen accept all the work that comes in, or any work that comes in, because they're afraid that if they don't accept that work, the next one's not going to come, right? So they accept the work and then they end up working with tossers instead of being more exclusive, and instead of being more determined in terms of the type of person you want to work for and learning to say no. We end up working for people that we don't want to work for, doing stuff that we don't want to do, and as a result we end up getting frustrated. And while you're doing that, while you're working for somebody that you don't want to be working for, you're missing the opportunity to work for somebody that you do want to work for. Or you're missing the opportunity to create the situation where you find the right kind of person. So understanding who your ideal customer is vitally important to a successful business. Niching down and specializing, understanding what type of work is most profitable for you and that you enjoy. See, if you can get the two of those together, if you can get something that you enjoy doing and something that is profitable, and you focus on marketing that and you focus on promoting yourself as a specialist in doing that, then you will have a successful business. Again, the problem is we take on every single little job that comes because we believe that if we don't take it, we're going to miss out. And then we end up, and again, you will have situations like this where you've gone out to do a particular project or a particular job, and then you realize I've bitten off more than I can chew. This isn't really down my street. Number one, it's either I don't know enough about it. Number two, it could be I just don't enjoy it. Number three, it could be shit, I've got to spend now half the day or all the day running around looking for various bits and pieces of materials that I don't particularly normally use, and so on and so forth. So you have all of these things that conspire against making sure you don't have a successful business. You're not looking to work with the right kind of people, and you're not specializing in what you actually do. So therefore, you're getting lots of crappy kind of work. And here's the thing, if you promote that you specialize in a particular area, you'll get more of that kind of work. But we don't do it because we're happy to grab in any bit of work that we can. Also then looking at the area that you want to actually operate in as well. My firm belief is that within a 5 to 15 mile radius of where you actually base your business, whether that's your home or an office, my belief is that you can get enough work to sustain a profitable business in that area. And we've proved that with the toolbox time and time again. We've had members who were traveling 70, 80 miles a day in order to work, subcontracting in the shit, in order to work, who have now narrowed down their working area to 3 to 5 miles, and they're employing staff as well. You know, it's a fallacy to believe that there's no work out there. There's a huge amount of work out there. We're just not promoting ourselves properly. We're not making people aware of the fact that we exist. We're not doing the right things in order to get that work. Remember those vehicles coming in and taking the work from your area. So specialist niche generator is a huge amount of content in that. Next thing is positioning. And again, you know, we don't position ourselves within our local community. And why is that? Why do we not push out the fact that we are a specialist in a given area? Why don't we push out the fact that we are good at what we do? Why don't we blow our own trumpets? You know, there's an example that I use And it's an example about scuba diving, because I enjoy scuba diving, right? It's one of the few sports that I enjoy. I'm not, you can see by my physique, I am not a very sporty person. But scuba diving is one of those things that I've always sort of enjoyed over the years. And I use this as an example because I tend to go to Crete, and I'm heading off there this year. But I tend to go to Crete to do my scuba diving. And what I want to do is I want you to imagine that you're with me. Okay, you're with me on the beach in Crete, and we are sunning ourselves when I say to you, let's go and do a dive. So we're going to, it's your first time. I've been doing it for the last 7 odd years. It's your first time. And I say, come on, let's go on and book a dive. Let's go and have a bit of fun. And you reluctantly go, yeah, okay, James, I'll give up the sunshine here and I'll go and get in the water with you. So we head down the beach. And as we walk down the beach, we can see here Costas, who's standing at a stall advertising his scuba diving. And at the stand, it's very sort of mixed up and a bit rickety looking. He's there in a string vest, having a fag, and he's got this what could pass for a boat behind him, a little bit patched up and so on and so forth. But he is advertising that you can do a dive at €45. I wish you could get a dive for €45. But anyway, he's advertising it. And you're walking with me, and we're heading down towards this, and you're looking at it, and I think your lip is curling up and going, oh, don't know about this, not too sure about that. But as we head on down the beach and we get a little bit closer to Costas, we can just see across the beach is Yanni. Now, Yanni is looking very dapper. He's got a nice navy t-shirt on with his nice pristine white shorts. His stand has got photographs of all of the happy people who have done these excursions with him. And he's got a beautiful new looking fiberglass launch at the back of it. And we're heading down. Now, as we're walking down this beach and we're halfway between the two of these, I drop my towel and I have to stop to pick it up, but you keep walking. And as you're walking, which one are you going to head towards? Are you going to head towards Costas with the fag in his mouth, or are you going to head towards Yanni with his pristine navy blue top on? Tell me, which one are you going for? Are you going for Costas or Yanni? Please type into the comment section. What direction are you going? Costas got a fag in his mouth. Yanni's got a nice pristine display. He's got good photographs. Which direction are you going? Remember, this is your first dive. We're going to take your life in our hands, and we're going to go diving off the coast of Crete. Which way are you going? Let's have some comments in here, guys. Come on. 9 of you out there at the moment. Somebody's got to have a suggestion. I don't know if it's slow or if you're still mulling it over, but let's go. Most people would typically go for Yanni. Most people would say he looks the part. Yanni has a nice pristine display. Yanni is he's got a nice launch at the back, and he looks the part. And you think to yourself, I'm going to go there because I'm going to feel safer. Now, the truth of it is that Costas, because I've been going out for the last 7 years, Costas had been there for 7 years that I've been doing it, and probably many more years beforehand. And Costas has taken out numerous excursions and never ever lost a client. And everybody has had a fantastic time with him because he has he's great knowledge of the local waters, and he makes a real treat out of the day for you. Now, Yanni, this is the very first time that I've ever seen Yanni there. This is the first time that this pristine new stall has been there. He's got in my view, no history at all. But yet, he has a queue of people behind him wanting to use his service. Why? Because he looks the part. Now, does anybody know that he is the part or not? No, but he looks the part. He's coming across with all of the right attributes to make you believe that he's the one to go to, while Costas is not making the effort. So here's the question, if you turn this on its head, who's doing that to you in your local fucking community? Who is it that, because you're not marketing yourself, because you're not positioning yourself, because you're not pushing yourself out there, who's coming over and doing that marketing and getting the results from your local area? Because I guarantee you there will be a Yanni taking the work from your local area. And so positioning is all about making sure that people know that you do what you do, making sure that they know that you are the expert that you are in the specialist area that you are as well. Will Simmons, nice to see you there. Trevor Mangan, nice to have you with us. So then the next thing was the local advertising code, which is the module that we have for teaching advertising. Now, all forms of advertising work. Don't let anybody tell you that they don't. All forms of advertising will work. The thing is, will they work for you, or can you make them work for you? If a form of advertising didn't work, it wouldn't exist. So everything from leaflet distribution, magazine advertising, networking, joint venturing, billboard advertising, radio advertising, TV advertising, and so on and so forth. They all work. But are they the right kind of advertising for you? In the advertising code, what we look at is the method of advertising and matching that against you and your ideal customer, so that we know what method is the right method to use for you and your ideal customer, what media that you should be making use of. And we initially start with all low and no cost forms of marketing before we go to paid advertising. And then we look at how you manage the advertising. And here's the thing, you saw at the beginning of the presentation, there was a quote from Henry Ford, which was, I know that half of my advertising works and half of it doesn't. The only problem is I don't know which half. And that's because most people don't manage their advertising. They're not recording details. They're not making sure that they understand where work is coming from, what volume of work they're getting, what the value of the work is against what they're spending on promotions and advertising. People sort of stick a finger in the air, they'll put a couple of £100 down on a magazine ad and not know whether that magazine ad is working for them. And therefore, if they don't know whether it's working or not, they don't know how to tweak it, they don't know how to make it even better. What we look at is managing the process so that you know where the calls are coming from, you know what's producing those calls, and you know how to maximize your ad spend in order to get a better return on your investment. It's all about learning about how to convert and converting sort of cold inquiries into solid quotes, converting solid quotes into business, and converting business into long-term customers stroke evangelists. So that's all done during the or through the advertising code. Next module that we have for building relationships is the Relationship Accelerator. We know that people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And in specific, people buy from people like them. In the Relationship Accelerator, we teach you how to build relationships with customers from the off, from the moment the phone starts ringing, from the moment you start talking to them, or members of your staff, or people in your office, or people that you're using to outsource calls. From that moment, we help you to start building relationships with your customers, right down to how to behave and how you deal with customers when you go through your quotation stage, through to delivering the quotes, through to being on the job as well. And at each stage, you have an opportunity to build or to maximize on that relationship, turning a person who knows nothing about you into an evangelist. And an evangelist in our case is somebody who is more than happy to go around talking about you and your business in all the right ways without you ever having to prompt them to do so. And we cover off all of that in the Relationship Accelerator. Then we move on to Customer Keeper. This is all about making sure that you retain these customers and make sure that you manage the whole word of mouth process. Remember, and this is one of these things that bugs the fucking shit out of me, guys. I don't mind saying, and that is, when you talk to somebody about how you get your work, and they say, "Oh, word of mouth," and they say, "If you're any good at what you do, you only need word of mouth." Bottom line is, that's a wish. That's not a process. That's not a system. You're wishing that somebody will actually pass your details on. And people say, if you do a good job, you'll get the work. Well, you should be doing a freaking good job anyway. Bottom line is, we don't go out there to try and deceive people or to do crappy shit work. That reflects on us. So you're going out doing a good job anyway. And while you're doing a good job, people are not referring you anyhow. And that's not that's not to say that you're not good at what you do. It's simply to say that life gets in the way. And what you do through the whole customer keeper process is you make sure you manage that process of ensuring that you're keeping in touch with these customers, making sure that you are communicating with them regularly, making sure that they are providing you with testimonials, with referrals, making sure that they know where to get hold of you when and if they need you back again for anything. There's a huge amount of content in this customer keeper, and we use things to manage this process. We use things like Facebook groups, email marketing, snail mail, newsletters, phone calls, cards. There's a huge array of things that we use in order to make sure that we can keep these customers on side. We also then learn about communicating with customers along the route. So throughout the whole process of the job, from the quote and getting back to people on the quote and managing that process, from the job and any additionals or extras that come up on the job, any damages on the job, and dealing with communication as far as all of that is concerned as well. And then, of course, guys, we wrap it all up with looking at systemizing the business. Now, when we look to systemize the business, we're looking at creating the tools, automated tools. We're looking at putting together a marketing plan, a business plan. We're looking at having a calendar for your marketing, and we're looking at monitoring the whole process so that you're not spending your whole life managing this and it becomes semi-automated. So that, in essence, is what the S.P.A.R.K.S Blueprint is all about. Just a quick note about some of the people who have implemented, and there are many, but I'm just bringing up two examples here at the moment. We have, we didn't want the music to kick in there. We have, although he deserves it, we have Anthony Jones, has been a long-term member now of the Toolbox. When Anthony started with the Toolbox, he was a sole trader, as in working on his own for himself. He was working feast to famine, mainly subcontracting and traveling far too much. He was doing about 70 to 80 miles every day to the job, and then 70 and 80 miles back from the job, just to earn his living. He was feeling sort of alone. Nobody sort of understood. He didn't have people to run business concepts or business ideas by, although he had a lot. He didn't, he felt like a lone voice. His family didn't understand, and there was nobody else who sort of understood where he was as far as his business is. Right now, Anthony has a consistent stream of work. 90% of that is within 3 miles of his home. He now has 2 staff, so no longer working on his own. And he gets to spend a lot more time with his family. A brief update on Anthony: he now has a second company. So his first company is running pretty much on autopilot. Yes, he does still have to be involved, but it is running pretty much without him, which has allowed him the time to set up a brand new company which specializes in electric radiators and replacements for storage heaters. The next example I want to give is a phenomenal guy called Steve Palmer. Some of you may have heard of him. Steve now runs a Facebook group to help other electricians who have come along the short course route. So when Steve first joined the Toolbox, when he first got involved with the Toolbox, he was earning £25 an hour. He was charging £25 an hour. He needed to be earning £180 a day just to keep his head above water. Literally just to keep his head above water. So you don't have to be a genius to do the maths. £25 an hour and earn 180 quid. He was working some fucking long hours and just keeping his head above water. Today, unbelievably, he's charging in excess of £145 as a minimum charge. So that is, when we talk about a minimum charge, that is, if he goes out to change a light switch in your property, he's charging you £145 for that light switch. Regardless of whether he's in the property for 10 minutes or for an hour, he's charging you £145. He picks the work that he wants to do. He has really nailed down who his ideal customer is, and his focus is on getting that. He doesn't see himself now as the electrician so much, although he is. He sees himself as a business owner whose job is to find enough people who will pay him £145 as a minimum charge, and he's being very successful doing it as well. And as I say, he's also running his own community now, helping people who have been through the short course electricians route. Steve went on to, having been, believe it or not, somebody who was very shy on video, and we teach about video and how to use video in your business. He went on from being very shy on video to actually having a video that went viral on both YouTube and Facebook. I think on Facebook alone, it got something like 35,000 or so. Yeah, I think went on to do even more than we have here on screen. Shares, 35,000 shares. But it had sort of 2 million views. That was on Facebook. It went on to do phenomenally well on YouTube as well. Now, as a result of doing that, video and getting that kind of exposure, Steve and his business ended up on or in Manchester Evening News, the Mirror, Daily Mail, Bristol Post, Live Gazette, Devon Live. He did an interview on, I believe it was ITV as well. What do you think that did for his business? Do you think that helped to position him or deposition him? Because I'll tell you now, it really helped to position him, and obviously helped then to justify his minimum charge fee as well. So I will come to your questions in a minute, guys. Please, I encourage you, if you have any questions, please do jump in and ask your questions. What I want to do now is just ask you very quickly, do you want to be a part of a community that learns how to actually grow their business? We allow only one electrician per postcode into our community. Let me just explain how that works. It is the first part of the postcode. So let me give you the example of ME5. So in the ME5 area, that's where I'm sitting at the moment, if there are 15 or 20 electricians in ME5, we would only allow one of those electricians into the community. The reason for that is it prevents me from overselling memberships. In other words, all 14 people in your area would not be learning the same strategies. The restriction is purely on me selling the areas. There is no restriction on where you market your service. You could have the ME5 postcode, but you could be selling your services in Scotland for all I care. It is not a franchise. There is no restriction on you at all. Are there occasions where postcodes back up against one another? Absolutely. So for example, here, ME4, ME5, ME1, ME3, ME7, all back onto one another. So there may be 3 or 4 electricians in and around the same community, but they will not be overstocked in terms of your particular postcode. So if you'd like to be part of the community, and I think you should be the one in your postcode before somebody else does, then do pay attention for the next couple of minutes, and I'll tell you how you can get involved. So what you actually get inside of the membership area is 24-hour access, 24-hour, 7 days a week access to all of the training material. You get your own login. You can log in as you want, watch the videos as you want, download the materials as you need as well. There are over 400 training videos inside of the member area. I think now we're close on 500 in the training area. We have weekly online training sessions. So every Monday evening we have a member Q&A behind closed doors. It's a member Q&A. Every Wednesday morning we have a Wednesday morning hour-long training session where we delve down into the microscopic details of those 6 areas that we were looking at just earlier. So we go down into much more detail on those. You will get a free website, including hosting. One of my biggest gripes is that many electricians don't have an online web presence, or if they do, they're paying far too much for it. So we will build you a free website and provide you with free hosting for your website. Now, what comes with that is the domain name. You purchase the domain name, but because it's on our hosting and because it's on your website, you actually get to use that domain name as your email address. And this is something that many other hosting programs don't do for you. So you end up with johnnysparks@gmail.com instead of something like james@kentelectrics.com. But you can get that with the system that we set you up with quite easily, and it's much more professional to have it that way as well. We have a private Facebook group I've mentioned where we have our closed door meetings. It is a fantastic community. It's one of the best communities on the web. Currently, I think active about 340 members in that group. It is an active group. We find that the people who succeed are the people who get involved as much as possible in that group as well. You get access to our live workshops as well. We run a workshop every quarter somewhere in the UK with a different theme. Our next one will be in the Bristol area, and it is on offline marketing. So we're looking at everything to do with offline marketing strategies. We also have a workshop out in St. Lucia this year as well. Yes, we're going off to get a bit of sunshine and sand. So we're taking a group of 10 members across to St. Lucia for that event as well. You also get access to a load of proven templates, everything from flyers, leaflets, magazine ads, articles, blogs, tweets, Facebook posts, coupons, brochures, you name it. There's a huge amount of different templates, letters that you can use for various different purposes as well, contracts of employment, you name it. There's a huge amount of stuff available for you there. Right, so what is the investment? It is very simply a £97 per month investment. You can register at jdewan.com/toolbox if you would like to come and join and be part of our community. There is an option to join for a 12-month period as well, so you can pay for the year up front and save yourself 2 months subscription if you wanted to do that. You'll find that on the download page when you visit jdewan.com/toolbox. I do offer a 100% money back guarantee. That is, if you try it for a month and you decide that it's not for you, if you decide that after a month's trial that you don't like it, or that it's not for your business, or you don't like me, or whatever the case is, then all you simply do is send me an email and say, James, I've given it the 30-day trial. It's not for me. Can I have my money back? And you will get it. No quibble, no argument, no fuss. Do your due diligence, guys. I'm not sure you will have heard anybody say anything bad or derogatory about the toolbox out on the web. In fact, my experience has been most people have only got good things and successful things to say. So if you think this is a good fit for your business, then please do consider becoming part of the community. You know, just for your assurance, I am not here to hold a gun to anybody's head. There is no long-term commitment. You don't come in and say, oh, you have to stay for 12 months or you're committed for 24 months or anything like that. It is simply try it for a month. If you like it, then stay on month by month by month. We have people who've been here. This has been now in existence for 9 years. We have people who've been here for those 9 years. Okay, there are a large number of people who've been here for 5 years plus. You don't stay in an organization like this unless you are getting results from it. So, you know, consider giving your business a chance. Don't think that 97 quid is too much. In fact, 97 quid is extremely cheap, because think about the profit, number one, that you would make on, let's just say, one consumer unit. Okay, if you can make profit on one consumer unit that would cover your monthly membership, I can guarantee you, you will be getting much more than one consumer unit per month that would easily cover your membership. Also, I think it's 70% of all Toolbox members increase their prices within the first month of joining, therefore increasing their profitability. We also show you how to ensure that you are profitable instead of getting to the end of the month and wondering where the actual money is. Okay, so that is it. That's the extent of the presentation this morning. Again, I want to say thank you very much for everybody who stuck with us once with the technical hitches this morning. Hopefully you've had some value out of the presentation. I'm going to go and answer any questions that you may have now. So please do type your questions in. If you've typed the question in already and I haven't answered it, it's not because I'm ignoring it. It's because it may have scrolled up along the timeline here. So if it's a question and it's important to you, post it again. No one's going to get offended with you posting a question 2 or 3 times. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. So please do get your questions in, and I will do everything I possibly can to answer them now. So let's have a look. Julian says, been doing a lot of work for family and friends recently, but always feel pressured to offer a good price and end up working too many hours and making no proper money on the jobs. How do you deal with family and friends as customers? Julian, this has always been a tough one for a lot of people. But the bottom line is your true friends will see that you are running a business, and they will understand that you have got to earn a living, because the work that you're doing for them, when you're doing for them, it's taking away from the income that you are bringing into your business. So there's two ways to deal with it. Number one, you make it extremely clear to friends and family that if they ask you to do any work, then you will be charging them as you charge any normal person. And you make that clear from the outset before they have an issue, right? So there's nothing worse than the family member expecting, right? So they come along and they expect that you are going to do the job because you've been in business for 5 years and they've never asked you for anything, and they think, oh, I know, I'll just go ahead and I'll ask Julian, he'll replace that light fitting for me. So they expect it. So then when then you turn around and say to them no, then they have an issue with it, because, oh shit, well, you could have done that. However, from the outset, and if the outset happens to be now for you, Julian, start now. But from the outset, make it very clear to them that if you ask me to do any work, I am going to charge you the very same as I would charge my normal customers. So please consider getting quotes elsewhere. Simple as that. And you make that abundantly clear to all of your family members and all of the people you think may ask you. The other thing to do is have a rule for yourself. So second to this is have a rule for yourself saying that I'm not going to do any work for friends and family. And then when they ask you, you politely refuse and you just say, I have seen these things end in disaster before. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to decline. I'd like to be able to help you, but I value our friendship more than I value any money that you would pay me for doing the job. Listen to the words, because they may not have been thinking about paying you, okay? So listen to the words. I value our friendship more than I value any money that you would have paid me for the job. Because the thing is, if you say no, and I don't do work for friends and family, they say, oh, but I'll pay you. Yeah, no, I value our friendship more than any money you would pay me for the job. Simple as that. So two ways to do it. Number one, make it abundantly clear that you charge your normal price to anybody, regardless of who they are. Simple as that. Or number two, I don't do work for friends and family. Full stop. And I don't do work for friends and family because I don't want to lose a friendship. I'll happily recommend to you the next electrician down the road. Off you go. So yeah, hopefully that helps, Julian. Not sure it was exactly the answer that you were looking for, but hopefully that will help. Guys, if you have any other questions, please. Actually, Trevor Mangan says, done exactly the same, never worked for friends and family. Here we go. You learn the hard way. Never worked for friends and family, learn the hard way. There you go. So yeah, they're the two things that I would suggest on that one. Okay, guys, I'm not seeing any other queries or questions. If you do have any, please do post them. I'm going to take another couple of seconds and drink this cold coffee before I go. If you are watching on replay, please do #replay. Let us know that you have been catching up. And also, if you're interested in becoming a Toolbox member and I haven't answered your questions, then feel free to email me, james@jdewan.com, or contact Steve Oakey. Steve is a Toolbox trainer and the head of the admin team as well. And Steve will happily answer any questions that you want answered also. So with that said, guys, I think we are going to wrap it up. If you're watching it on replay, please #replay. If you have any questions, #question, #replay, and myself or Steve will get back to you and answer your queries or your questions. Once again, apologies about this morning's little technical hitch. With that said, guys, I'm going to take my leave of you. Take it easy. Enjoy what is left of your weekend. Cheerio.
I did a bit more checking out of James on his YouTube channel and found some of his videos which were very useful. Implemented a couple of the ideas, specifically the ones regarding contacting estate agents, and had some success with those ideas. After having looked at the videos and read the S.P.A.R.K.S Blueprint book, I realised that James wasn't a business person trying to sell me a marketing course. He was an electrician at heart, and he knew the industry in and out, and the toolbox was specifically catering towards the electrical industry. I think that was the thing that really sold it to me the most over any other business course or marketing help from anybody else. There is a membership area on a website, and it contains training videos on numerous different topics that relate to the marketing of your business. This can be from leaflets to local magazines, internet websites, Facebook. It covers a whole host of online and offline marketing ideas and topics. There's also a very helpful Facebook group where a number of the members post messages and help and support each other. I found this very helpful and useful because a lot of the other online, especially Facebook forums for electricians, I found were very judgmental when people are asking questions like this, especially with regards to marketing. The main topic seemed to be that if you were good enough, then you wouldn't have to look for work. And as I'm sure we all know, that it's not quite as simple as that. Personally, for me, some of the offline marketing ideas were very useful, both the magazine adverts and the leaflets. I had tried a magazine advert in one of the little local on your doorstep books before and had got one job out of it after being in for 6 months. So obviously that was really a bit of a waste of money. Having looked through the toolbox and looked at the way that James explains how you should lay out an advert and where you should place it in the magazine, there was obviously a lot more to it than I initially thought. Having implemented these ideas, it went from, getting me one job to I now get multiple jobs, on average 10 jobs a month out of each book. So they're easily more than making the money and plenty more profit as well. Similar with leaflets, I had tried a small number of leaflets in my local area, again, and not using the toolbox methods prior to joining the toolbox, and had very little success with it. I seem to remember I got 1 or 2 calls out of handing out a few thousand of them. However, having now implemented the toolbox methods, again, this is now a consistent way of getting work into my business. Since joining the toolbox, I now feel that I'm a lot less reliant on, luck, basically, in order to just get work in. Now I feel like I have a solid strategy that I can implement, which provides me with a steady stream of new inquiries. And it's also really helped me to keep in touch and teach me some ideas to keep in touch with my existing customers, which has fostered more word of mouth. And this has really helped me to grow my business to a point where I am now very profitable compared to what I was. I've upped my minimum charge by at least 50% since joining the toolbox, and I've had nothing but success with it.